A billionaire and a bunch of millionaires met last week to talk about whether the average Social Security benefit of $1,700 a month should be cut. Let that sink in. Elon Musk, giga turbo billionaire, hundreds of billions, has been deputized in an unelected role to start cutting. And he met with senators who have average net worths in the millions. So a giga billionaire and millionaires got together and they said, what about cutting Social Security to people getting $1,700 a month, which they are entitled to since they worked for a living? Let's look at cutting their benefits. Let's look at cutting Medicare. We've got a bunch of reports on this. CNBC reports Doge's Musk and Ramaswamy want Congress to pass huge spending cuts. That's a tough sell. And it points out that mathematically, you can't do anything meaningful unless you look at Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I will tell you why this is the case mathematically in a moment. The article points out the duo had a day of meetings on Capitol Hill with hundreds of Republican lawmakers. Nothing is sacrosanct, was the reaction from the senators who met with Musk and Ramaswamy. Nothing is sacrosanct, meaning it's not off the table that we would look at Social Security. It's not off the table that we would look at Medicare. It's not off the table that we would look at Medicaid. And in fact, we did have this disturbing video, Fox Business reporting after this meeting, that indeed, yes, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are very much on the table.
Nothing is sacrosanct. Nothing. They're going to put everything on the table.
That's what they told lawmakers. Everything is on the table, and that includes Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Let me tell you why this is mathematically a reality. If you're surprised by this, if you are a factory worker in Iowa who gleefully voted for Donald Trump for strength and for the economy and for alpha and for testicular fortitude and because Trump pretends to be 6'3" and right, whatever reason you had for voting for Trump, we now have a problem. And the problem is that they are talking about cutting $2.5 trillion from the budget. The problem with that is the entirety of discretionary spending is $2.5 trillion. You can, if you don't touch mandatory spending, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, if you don't touch that, you have to somehow take 2.5 trillion out of 2.5 trillion. That means discretionary spending goes to zero. So either they're not going to cut anywhere close to what they told us they're going to cut, which we knew, or they're going to have to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or they'll have to cut not as much and take a little from Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. That's the math of it. And for all of the bluster, you can show up at a rally sweaty and orange 3 hours late and tell people how Kamala's a communist, right? You can do that a million times. And you can promise cuts. And Elon, or Leon, as he called him once, do I have that on my soundboard? I don't think I do. You can say it as many times as you want that Elon's going to cut and Vivek is going to cut and we're going to cut our way to prosperity. But at a certain point, the math is the math. You're obviously not going to cut discretionary spending to zero. So if you want to get anywhere close to your promised 2.5 trillion, it's going to have to come out of Social Security. The disgusting nature of a guy with hundreds of billions of dollars meeting with senators who make 180 a year and are mostly millionaires to say, how are we going to do this thing? Well, maybe the people getting $1,700 a month from Social Security will bring them down to $1,500. There's an idea. Well, but Elon's got 200 billion. What is we need to save by cutting pennies on the dollar from people who worked for a living and are entitled to that money? So this is an oligarchy and or a kleptocracy. Let me remind you about those terms. Oligarchy is a system of government where a small group of people, they're usually wealthy, they're usually influential, they control the country. And when you say, hey, Vivek with a couple hundred billion, Vivek with a few hundred million, and Elon with a couple hundred billion, and millionaire senators, that's who will decide on Social Security benefits. That's an oligarchy. It's also kind of a kleptocracy. A kleptocracy is a corrupt form of government where leaders exploit their power to steal wealth and resources for personal gain. In some mathematical sense, that's what this is. It's about Elon's not going to pay more. Vivek's not going to pay more. The senators aren't going to pay more. We'll cut the benefits of people who made $42,000 for their careers and are now retired. Is it an oligarchical kleptocracy or is it a kleptocratic oligarchy? I don't know. It's probably both. But this is where we are right now. And so in particular, building on some of these people are about to get a rude awakening. This is the direction things are going. And I am not an accelerationist. I want to remind you that. In fact, I have an entire chapter in my book about why I believe accelerationism is wrong. It doesn't work. History tells us that you don't improve things by burning it to the ground and rebuilding it. In fact, when you do that, things often get worse for a lot of people. The people doing the rebuilding are sometimes even worse than the people who were in power previously. So I'm an incrementalist. But despite my views, it's looking more and more like we are going to see an acceleration of the destruction that these people have planned for their own betterment. Their pockets are going to do great. I heard Trump's going to let me keep my special tax cut called QBID, the qualified business income deduction. Cool. Okay. But what about the people getting $1,750 in Social Security? We're going to cut you to $1,600. You can't afford a medication? Oh, well, that's going to be a problem for you. That's where things are going. After the break, we have the first list of people Trump wants to imprison. Yeah, they said it was hyperbole. They said it was an exaggeration, but we have the list and we'll go over it with you. Let's talk about a game changer in sleep technology, our sponsor 8 Sleep and their revolutionary Pod 4 Ultra. The Pod is a high-tech mattress cover, and you can easily add it to your existing mattress. You can cool or heat your mattress based on your preferences and even elevate your head if you snore. I run hot. I hate getting hot when I sleep. That's why I set my 8 Sleep Pod to keep my mattress at a cool 60 degrees at night. You can set it anywhere from 55 to 110 degrees. You can set each side of the bed independently to a different temperature depending on your preferences versus your partner's, or you can set your pod to detect your body's sleep cycles and automatically adjust temperature for optimal sleep. The pod can also detect when you're snoring and automatically adjust the position of the bed to reduce or even stop the snoring. This can be a huge factor in how rested you will feel the next day, and your sleeping partner will thank you bigly. You get 30 days to try it at home. Return it if you don't like it, but I know you'll love it as much as I do. Right now for Black Friday, 8 Sleep is giving my audience up to $600 off your Pod 4 Ultra purchase when bundled. Go to 8sleep.com/Pacman and use code Pacman. The link is in the description.